Welcome to some Civil War poetry. I'm Vincent Hannum, and I am operating without an external mic at the moment. So, 1 second, and I'll get that plugged in, and we will go to Civil War Poetry Land. It's also Monday morning. Happy Monday. Start of another week. I hope you had a great weekend. All right, let's see what this does for us. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Ring. Ring. Civil War poetry. How can I help you? All right, guys. We are going to jump into our Civil War history this day. It's pretty short, so I'll just go ahead and include it, even though I don't know off first glance what this refers to. But in 1863, Confederate William Lowndes Yancey died of kidney disease in Montgomery, Alabama. Mr. Yancey died of kidney disease, Confederate disease, in Montgomery, Alabama. And our Civil War quote is, "I can make Georgia howl." That's a famous quote. 10 points. Anyone out there want to give a guess? Union General not named Ulysses S. Grant, William T. Sherman. That's correct. He said that when he came up with, I don't know if he came up with it, but his idea for the March to the Sea, where he would just cut straight through Georgia and burn everything in his path. He was kind of the earliest proponent, or the one who envisioned the idea of total war. Obviously, that came to define war in the next century. But at this time, the idea to make Georgia howl was certainly an extreme one. Quick note on that, there's a wonderful documentary called When Georgia Howled from the Georgia Public Broadcasting. That's available on YouTube. It's an hour long, but very well made, very insightful. Go check that one out. So today we are getting into some Emily Dickinson. Again, one of my favorites, one of the groundbreaking American poets in terms of just, just verse. The book is Poetry of the Civil War, is divided into two halves, one the Union, one the Confederate. And I like to read one from each side each morning just to do a little comparing and contrasting to see where and how citizens and the populace at the time were feeling about the war that was affecting every facet of public life, and kind of figure that out, at least poetically. There are links below in the description that you can click so you can follow along if you would like to. I would also say if you like this show, that's fantastic. We only have about a week and a half left of poetry to cover in this. So if you would like to see more, please let me know. Any way you want to reach out to me, your encouragement will, because I definitely want to keep doing this. And I've got some big plans beyond just reading from this, maybe venturing into podcast land, maybe venturing into some more specific poets, like maybe we do a week on just Walt Whitman. John Whitman, who's that? On Walt Whitman. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking, and I'll absolutely take cues from you. So our poems today are called The 1037 by Private Miles O'Reilly. That's our Union poem. Our Confederate poem is called John Pelham, and that is by James Ryder Randall. So Private Miles O'Malley, first up the bat, was just one of many pen names, employed by Charles Graham Halpin, 1829 to 1868. Born in County Meath, Ireland, Halpin studied medicine and law before settling into a career in journalism contributing to a number of magazines. Woo! Talk about Monday. Halpin studied medicine and law before settling into a career in journalism, contributing to a number of magazines and newspapers, including the New York Herald and the New York Times. He then left journalism for a career in city politics. Shortly after the beginning of the war, on April 20th, 1861, Halpin became a lieutenant in the 69th New York State Militia, later the 69th New York Volunteer Infantry. His poem, The 1037, also known as April 20th, 1864, is a celebration of the regiment. A successful officer who rose to the rank of brigadier general, failing eyesight, forced Halpin's resignation in the summer of 1864. That same year saw publication of Miles O'Reilly, his book, the first of two O'Reilly books. Halpin returned to the... Oh my gosh, what's happening? Halpin returned to New York and resumed his work in journalism and city politics. He died in 1868. Wow. Okay, folks. Before we get into the 1037, I have to apologize for my behavior. I have just yawned twice. If this was a game show, I'd be dunked in a booth. Come on, get it together. The 1037 by Private Miles O'Reilly. "3 years ago today, we raised our hands to heaven, and on the rolls of muster our names were 37. There were just 1,000 bayonets, and the swords were 37, as we took our oath of service with our right hands raised to heaven. Oh, 'twas a gallant day, in memory still adored, that day of our sun-bright nuptials, with the musket and the sword. Shrill rang the fifes, the bugles blared, and beneath a cloudless heaven far flashed 1,000 bayonets, and the swords were 37. Of the 1,000 stalwart bayonets, 200 march today. Hundreds lie in Virginia swamps, and hundreds in Maryland clay, while other hundreds, less happy, drag their mangled limbs around and envy the deep, calm, blessed sleep of the battlefield's holy ground. For the swords, one night a week ago, the remnant, just 11, gathered round a banqueting board with seats for 37. There were 2 came in on crutches, and 2 had each but a hand to pour the wine and raise the cup as we toasted our flag and land. And the room seemed filled with whispers as we looked at the vacant seats, and with choking throats we pushed aside the rich but untasted meats. Then in silence we brimmed our glasses as we stood up, just 11, and bowed as we drank to the loved and the dead who had made us 37. Oh, I like that one. That it's such a great cadence. I thought I was reading a children's story. Just da 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 da, the rhyming scheme, and just the easy visual of we started out with 1,037, and now we have 11 left. So apparently that's about the 69th New York Volunteer Infantry. Sounds fascinating. Would love to do more research on that. If you have any knowledge or research to offer, please do shout out. Again, I would hate to do this in a vacuum completely. So please leave a comment. Before we move on to John Pelham, I completely said we were doing Emily Dickinson today. That's not the case. I'm going to chalk this one up to Monday 3, Vincent 0. John Pelham by James Ryder Randall. And Mr. Randall lived from 1839 to 1908. Was born in Baltimore. Ill health prevented him from serving in the conflict, but he wrote much in support of the Confederacy. After the war, Randall settled in Augusta, Georgia, where he became editor-in-chief of the Constitutionalist. That's some irony for you. Okie dokie, folks. John Pelham. Just as the spring came laughing through the strife with all its gorgeous cheer, in the bright April of historic life fell the great cannoneer. The wondrous lulling of a hero's breath, his bleeding country weeps. Hushed in the alabaster arms of death, our young Marcellus sleeps. Nobler and grander than the child of Rome, curbing his chariot steeds, the knightly scion of a southern home dazzled the land with deeds. Gentlest and bravest in the battle brunt, the champion of the truth, he bore his banner to the very front of our immortal youth. A clang of sabers mid Virginian snow, the fiery pag of shells, and there's a wail of immemorial woe in Alabama dells. The pennon drops that led the sacred band along the crimson field, the meteor blade sinks from the nerveless hand over the spotless shield. We gazed and gazed upon that beauteous face, while round the lips and eyes, couched in the marble slumber, flashed the grace of a divine surprise. O mother of a blessed soul on high, thy tears may soon be shed. Think of thy boy with princes of the sky among the southern dead. How must he smile on this dull world beneath, fevered with swift renown, he with the martyr's amaranthine wreath, twining the victor's crown. James Ryder. Randall, much like the 1037, I feel like that had a really quick but easy cadence to it that I enjoyed reading. It gave me a lot of imagery there. So those are our poems for the day. I would like to define this word amaranthine real quick, as that was one new word that jumped out to me. Vocab Day. Amaranthine, song by Amaranth. It is a color. It is like a purple. Oh, like a reddish rose. Not sure if you can see that very well. No, you can't. But it's like a reddish rose. Amaranthine. Okay, so tomorrow's poems. Maybe we'll feature Emily Dickinson. It doesn't look like it. We have a return appearance by Herman Melville. I will take him. His poem is called A Dirge for McPherson, Killed in Front of Atlanta. Speaking of, July 22nd, 1864. And our Confederate poem for tomorrow is by our old friend Henry Timrod. And that is simply called Ode. Ode by Henry Timrod. And A Dirge for McPherson, Killed in Front of Atlanta, July 22nd, 1864, by Herman Melville. Thank you, everybody. My name is Vincent. The book is Poetry of the Civil War. This is some Civil War poetry. Let me know what you see the future of this being after next week, essentially. All right, over and out. Have a great week. Have a great Monday. See you tomorrow.